welcome back to our preschool Bible lessons. Today is a very exciting day, so I'm glad that you're here. We are starting a brand new series. This series is about a super cool book in the Bible called Proverbs. You see, King David's son Solomon asked God for wisdom, and God heard his prayer and answered it. Solomon wrote down wisdom that he had learned from God that he knew would help us in our lives today. He's kind of like a really good advice giver. We are starting with Proverbs 4, when Solomon teaches us that above all else, it is so important for us to guard our hearts. But there aren't soldiers or guards around our heart, so how do we keep it healthy and safe? Well, that is a great question, and the answer is that Jesus actually made it possible for us to have a new heart that can be fixed on Jesus if we choose Him. And that is how we keep our hearts clean and strong, by choosing to worship Jesus and getting to know Him more every single day. Now listen to this amazing story in the Bible of two kings who learned how to guard their hearts too.
There was once a noble king named Saul. He was chosen by God. Saul led God's people for a long time with a righteous heart. He fought so many battles with God on his side and looked to God to lead him in every decision. There was also another noble king named David. David was also chosen by God, fought battles, and let God lead him in every decision. But there was one thing that made them different. That was their heart. Saul started off great, but as life got harder and he was put in tough situations, he ended up totally forgetting about God and choosing his own way of life. His heart grew very hard, and he even ended up losing his position as king because of it. David, on the other hand, worshiped God with all that he had. When life got hard for David, he wasn't always perfect, but he always worshiped God in the end. David was known in the Bible as a man after God's own heart, and him and his family were very blessed because of it. When Saul made his choice in his heart to turn away from God, his life became sad and full of anger and confusion. It makes our hearts sad to live without God. That is why David lived his life full of joy, even though he went through tough times too. He knew in his heart that he could still get through anything as long as God was on his side.
Wow, I love the story of Saul and David. It is so sad that Saul ended up being sad and angry, all because his heart was not with God. King David is such a great example of why we need Jesus in our hearts. When we have Jesus in our hearts, we may get sad or angry, but we don't have to get stuck there. We can still worship Jesus and have peace and joy. I am so thankful that Jesus cares about our hearts, and that's why we should take care of our hearts too. We can by fixing our eyes on Jesus. Say it with me. I can guard my heart. Good job. Try it again. I can guard my heart. Great job. As we continue learning about Proverbs, our memory verse is Proverbs 3:13, so we help remember how it helps us. Proverbs 3:13 says, "Joyful is the person who finds wisdom and gains understanding." Are you ready to learn it with me? Okay, good. Go ahead and stand up. Make sure your muscles are warmed up. They're ready to go. We gotta learn some really cool moves for this one. So it goes like this. Joyful is the person. Now, when we have joy, we normally smile, right? Okay, show me a big smile and point to it and say, joyful is the person who finds wisdom and gains understanding. We're gonna point to our brain that makes us super, super smart. We're gonna say, joyful is the person who finds wisdom and gains understanding. Okay, one more time before we go. Joyful is the person who finds wisdom and gains understanding. Great job, everybody. You did awesome. And I will see you next time.